Hey, welcome back to Alcove. Today's episode is all about Oxford's word of the year, brain rot. We're going to start us off with a definition. Brain rot is a noun, which the definition is supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as a result of overconsumption of material, now particularly online content, considered to be trivial or unchallenging. Also, something characterized as likely to lead to such deterioration. Now, if you're not familiar with Oxford's methods for choosing the word of the year, there are two kind of variables that go into it. One, it's supposed to be like a word or expression that reflects a defining theme from the past 12 months. And it's a combination of public vote and language analysis by Oxford lexicographers. And some of the other contenders we had was demure, slop, dynamic pricing, romanticy, or in other words, smut, and lore. There were over 37,000 votes, which seems very low. But I think each of these words makes sense to be on there, but I think brain rot was the clear and obvious winner for choosing the word of the year. So they said that brain rot gained new prominence this year as a term used to capture concerns about the impact of consuming excessive amounts of low-quality online content, especially on social media. The term increased in usage frequency by 230% between 2023 and 2024. It'll surprise you to know. So I did a bunch of research looking back into the word brain rot and trying to pull some examples for you. And I was shocked to find that the first use of the word brain rot harkens all the way back to 1854 when Henry David Thoreau used it in his book Walden. And of course, the definition itself has kind of stayed similar, although, with the day of the internet, things can take off and slightly change. But despite it actually being created all the way back in 1854, it started gaining traction as early as 2004 online, with it seeing even more traction in 2007, when it was used by Twitter users to describe dating game shows, video games, and, quote, hanging out online. And then rose once again in the 2010s before we saw the explosion in 2023 with the where itself became an internet meme. And then now here we are in 2024, where it is common vernacular for those who live online or in Generation Alpha and Generation Z. Some common examples that you might hear the youth of today talking about. You might hear the word skibbity or skibbity toilet, Riz, Gyat, Phantom Tax, and Sigma. And maybe I should actually give a quick summary of what each of those words are. Skibbity, couldn't tell you. All I know is it's a reference to a YouTube series. Check out Skibbity Toilet. Then you got Riz, which is short for charisma. Charisma. Anyways, Gyat, referring to the buttocks. Phantom Tax, which is stealing food. And Sigma, which refers to a leader or an alpha male. Thanks. Anyways, those are some of the easiest to point to examples where brain rot can be easily associated. And unfortunately, those examples are also not great for anyone that's not anyone older than Gen Z. And even then, it's I feel like older Gen Z may not be entirely familiar with that, but what do I know? I thought it was funny when doing my research. I actually found that the Newport Institute published some stuff around brain rot. Now, Newport Institute is a mental health center, although I looked into Newport and it doesn't seem like that credible of a health center. I don't know, just something seemed off about their website. They seemed a little not fake. What is the word I'm trying to look for here? It's I didn't have the certain feel that real true medical centers have on their website. I don't know how to explain that, actually. That's a really tough question, but I feel I'm hoping that people might know what I mean. it's a certain kind of polish that you see on health centers. Anyways, and Newport was just missing it. But they define brain rot as a state of mental fogginess and cognitive decline that results from excessive screen engagement. I heavily do not agree, and I also very heavily dislike the way that they are describing what brain rot is. They admit that there is no actually confirmed like medical diagnosis or medical term for brain rot. So and I think that's an important part of the conversation. Is this is very much like a cultural kind of it's a cultural phenomenon, and this mental health center trying to frame it in this mental health capacity is maybe not doing them any justice. And so they had some suggestions on how to prevent it. It's like set limits on screens, curate your feeds, which definitely you should be trying to curate your feeds. Algorithms are constantly screwing up. But pursue non-digital interests, connect offline with positive people, strengthen your mind, do a digital detox, and get support. It feels a little bit more like if you're actually addicted to screens, here's how to, like, they're conflating screen addiction or screen dependency with brain rot. And I think that's their problem here. And so that I didn't like it, but I wanted to include it just because it was part of the discussion. But it was interesting to say none the least. And of course, all the links will be included in the show notes for this episode. Here's one that I kind of agree with them. They actually say that one brain rot behavior is doom scrolling, which involves long periods of searching for negative and distressing news online. And they lost me at the second half. I think... I would not say doom scrolling is you specifically looking for negative and distressing news online. I have to wonder how old the person is that's actually writing these descriptions and these articles, and whether or not they have young people on staff that are fact checking this and saying, well, from this perspective, this is what it actually is. And I feel like that's kind of a common problem with a lot of people that are trying to put out articles about this kind of thing, is they don't check with the people whose generation actually produces or uses this word to really understand it and its complexities. So I have been scrolling through my TikTok saves to try and clean them all out, or TikTok bookmarks, to try and clean them out and copy off, different food ideas that I've come up with, or content ideas, and just reviewing saved content that I saved for some ungodknown reason. And I feel like the closest that I've gotten to brain rot content is I have these what I would call TikTok lore. And there's kind of been 3 periods of this TikTok lore. And I think in some way I might call this brain rot. In other ways I wouldn't. But the first one is, and I'm going to butcher the name here, Dongwang Jinglong's industrial grade glycine. And what happened with this is the one of the first ones I remember. And I honestly don't know if this was an actual real company or not, but it was an industrial grade glycine production plant, and they were advertising, if it was real, they were actually advertising on TikTok about how they're now selling in the US, and for all your industrial grade glycine needs, contact Dongwang Jinglong's. I did not like the way I was pronouncing it, so I'm looking it up. And I'm just going to start saying DJ for the rest of this explanation, because I did not like the way I was pronouncing it. And so I do want to apologize. But it's one last try as Donghua Jinlong. Anyways, it was a Chinese plant, and the meme culture just kind of took off with this one. Everyone was confused about why they were everyone on this side of TikTok was just confused about why they were suddenly getting all these adverts for industrial grade glycine. And everyone was trying to figure out if this was a real company, or if it was just like an internet meme and it was kind of exploding with its own series of TikToks behind it, and so it was very weird. And it just progressed to the point where at one point they're like, oh, we just got United States' FDA approval, and then it was like people were making AI spoof videos of different celebrities talking about industrial grade glycine and DJ's contributions in the area, and I definitely watched every single video knowing that this content had absolutely no value. And there it is. I will now say that DJ's content period is absolutely brain rot content. The second one, this is the one I have the most issue with calling brain rot content, was the Gnome versus Knights. And this was a weird series where different people were making these almost cosplay like TikToks about how they were either on the knight side or the gnome side, and there was this great fantasy war, and people were making different videos about like, oh, the wizards joined this side, and oh no, the gnomes have taken the glades, or the gnomes have overthrown the castle, or the knights are coming to kidnap gnomes, and people were just all like communally contributing to this TikTok lore of this gnomes versus knights battle. And it's as odd as I am making it seem. And I really wonder if this happened outside the US at all, or if this was purely a US side of TikTok where things were just weird. But anyways, I am rambling a lot on this TikTok one, and I apologize. We're coming to the end, but this Knights versus Gnomes thing went on for quite a while, and it was very odd. As it progressed, it got weirder and weirder because people were running out of fantasy tropes, and then they were still blowing up, and so people were starting to do weirder and weirder things before it eventually just suddenly, like a flick of your fingers, just kind of, or snap of your fingers, it just disappeared. And one thing to note from it, or what I'd rather say is one thing that I really appreciated about this one, was that it's kind of like this community storytelling like D&D, where everyone gets to contribute their own parts to it, and then people just communally accept that it's part of the set lore, and everyone's just running with it, regardless of who created it. It goes beyond its original creator, and so I really liked it. It was a fun little TikTok fantasy thing that went on for a little bit. The last one that I wanted to put forward as brain rot content that I've experienced is the third series on TikTok, which was this people were using Minecraft and having these like football games in it. And at one point, the football stadium was like blown up by one of the Minecraft monsters, and then there was retaliation, and it was like a whole college football thing, and people were creating like team rosters and having services for like the lost team members who died in the bombing. It was this niche of a niche thing on TikTok where people who were both wanted to commit to this TikTok bit and also liked Minecraft were just contributing to this lore about a fantasy football team that died in an explosion in Minecraft, which makes absolutely no sense, and truly I think embodies the definition of brain rot. And I have no great way of wrapping this up. I've been sitting here trying to think of a way to connect this all and bring this into a nice cohesive little packaged ending, but I don't have it, so I'm just gonna say brain rot is the word of the year, and I think it will continue to flood the space going forward. However, if the TikTok ban actually does come true, for the 15th time now here in the US, I have to wonder how much that will contribute to the discourse and the continuation of brain rot content, because I feel like it's primarily found and shared from TikTok. And while YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels can try and produce some of that, I just don't think it has the same kind of user culture around it that TikTok does for propagating this kind of brain rot content. So I would be interested to see, if I lose all contact with brain rot content, if TikTok is actually canceled. If you have a favorite brain rot content that you find yourself listening to, I would love to know about it, because I find that these things are super niche sometimes, and very few people get to ever like talk about it. out of like a small grouping space. And so I would love to hear what it is and share any examples if you can. I've been your host, Michael. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Alcove.